Okay, now that you have learned that the definition of terms is written using a sentence definition, okay, so sentence definition is a format on how we can write the definition of terms in our paper, in which we write the definition of the term using a full grammatical sentence, and it follows a format, and it goes like this: genus, linking verb, species, relative pronoun, and then the differentia. Now that you have learned this format, or let's say this guideline, major guideline on how you can write a definition of terms, let us now, let's say, proceed with the other guidelines on how to write this section of your research paper. Let's try to take a look with the following example. So we have here this example. Let's try to analyze it. Okay? So notice, class, that let's say the genus definition. Okay? So notice the genus definition highlighted in blue. Okay? Notice our definition highlighted in blue. So what do they have in common? Okay. Notice that their definitions contain a citation. Okay? So that is their similarity. So the definition highlighted in blue contain a citation. So meaning to say, class, okay, are the definition of terms based on existing RRLS? Or let's say, do we base our definition of terms from our RRLS? Okay, so obviously, class, the answer is yes. So meaning to say, each term, okay, or let's say each genus, okay, shall contain a definition that is based from RRLS. Okay? And this kind of definition that is based on RRLS will be known as conceptual definition. Okay? Conceptual definition. So again, those definition that contain RRLS are known as conceptual definition. On the other hand, let's try to analyze those definition highlighted in red. Okay, so we have here these definitions of the genus highlighted in red. Okay, so, okay, in this kind of definition, do you think we need citations? We still need citations. Obviously, the answer is no. Why? Let's say, why is it that this definition, right after the conceptual definition, does not need, do not require any citations anymore? So why is that? Okay, so notice, class, that the definitions highlighted in red gave definition to our genus or to our terms based on how the researcher, okay, so this definition was based on how the researcher utilized the genus in their study. Okay, so this definition is subjective. This is based on the researcher. So in other words, class, this definition of the genus highlighted in red shows the role. Okay, it shows the role of the genus in your study. Okay, what is the role or the purpose of the genus in your study? Okay, what is the role of the genus being described? And this definition that do not need RRLS and describes how the genus was used in the study is known as operational definition. Okay, so again, let me reiterate once more. Operational definition is a kind of definition whereas we describe the role of the genus in your study. Okay, and unlike conceptual definition, it does not need citations. So no citations anymore. Okay, so that will be our second guideline in writing the definition of terms. So each term shall contain a conceptual definition and an operational definition. Okay, so Again, the conceptual definition, these are definitions that are based on RRLS and has citations, while operational definition are definitions that are based on how the researcher defines it for their study. Okay, so now let's try to proceed to the terms that shall be defined in your paper. So after knowing how to write the definition of terms using a sentence definition, and after finding out that we need, let's say, both conceptual and operational definition in a single entry, we will try to narrow down what are the, let's say, terms that must be defined. Okay, remember class that we have numerous terms in your research paper. Okay, and we will try to narrow down what are the crucial terms that must be defined so that it won't, let's say, look overwhelming while you are writing the definition of terms. So we have here this example. Okay, so we have here Katmon. Okay, we have here Katmon and Pseudomonas aeruginosa. So the study here, class, is that the Katmon plant will be used to produce such antibacterial agent, okay, that could diminish the zone of inhibition. Okay, and then the Pseudomonas aeruginosa is used as an experimental unit in your study. And this Pseudomonas aeruginosa has a measurable variable known as the zone of inhibition. Okay, so from these examples, class, it is already obvious that some of the terms that we must define in our definition of terms are our, okay, independent and dependent variables. Okay, so in our definition of terms, we must define our independent and dependent variables. Okay, so those are the first two terms that must be defined. Next, so we have here this example. Okay, we have bacterial and fungal growth, bacterial log reduction, bacterial and fungal morbidity rate. Then we also have percent reduction, rate of inhibition equilibrium, and zone of inhibition. Okay, so class, what are the, let's say, similarities of those terms? Okay, so these terms, class, are actually quantifiable in nature. Okay, so they are terms that are perceived to be quantifiable and in nature. So meaning to say, if the terms are quantifiable in nature, are they measurable or not? Obviously, they are measurable. So meaning to say, in our definition of terms, we must also define our measurable variables. Okay? So we have three entries already. So we have independent variable, dependent variable, and now we have the measurable variables. Okay? So we must define our measurable variables. So that will be the first three key terms that must be defined in your definition of terms. In our next video presentation, we will try to narrow down the other terms and guidelines so that you can be guided in writing this part of your research paper.